Welcome to my space. Let's take 3 deep breaths together, gathering your energy back, landing your awareness somewhere deeper inside the body, and feeling your present moment. Here we go. Deep breath in. On the exhale, feel free to wiggle your spine, dropping into your seat, feeling your sits bones on the chair. Deep breath in. On the exhale, spiraling your awareness down through that central channel in the body. See if you can land yourself in your awareness down into that low belly, the cauldron, the womb. Deep breath in. And on this exhale, make some noise if you're in a place where you feel comfortable doing that. Just a slow, gentle hum. I am here. Let yourself feel your heartbeat. This is where your real living is. It's in the present moment. So thank you for sharing your present moment with me. And I'm inviting you to stay really connected to your awareness in your present moment if you choose to continue listening to this video. And stay connected to your sensations, stay connected to the things you're noticing, the emotion or the sensation or the thoughts, and allow your awareness to be the central grounded part of you while you notice yourself as you take in this video. We often will check out or disconnect. We're not taking note of what's happening in our bodies, mostly because many of us have not been taught how to be with the sensations, how to be with the feelings. And so it's easier to just ignore or cut it off or be really disconnected from our bodies. Or you're the opposite, which I have a child who's overly connected to what's happening in the body, and that causes a lot of anxiety and panic because they are overly connected to the sensations. And we're working really, really hard to restore those sensations, to give this child tools, and they're doing fantastic. So there's a couple of different ways that people generally will work with their sensations, their awareness with their sensations or your emotions. And the more you do that, the more embodied you will be, the more tools you have to hold yourself, to notice what's actually happening. This body is giving you tons and tons of really important information about what's true for you, and how to learn to live your truth in the world really starts with being able to stay in connection to what's happening in your body, even more than in your brain. So that's my little blip. I wasn't even planning to talk about that. Body work sessions can help you get more connected. Yoga practice, Qigong practice, movement practice. People that I work with who maybe aren't as spiritually inclined, but are athletes or really know their body, are also pretty good at staying connected to the truth of what's happening inside of them. So there's just lots of ways to do that, but it's a really important piece if you want to be living more of yourself honestly in the world. You have to learn how to be connected to emotion and sensation and track it while the present moment is happening. And if you've got a lot of trauma in your background, or you've just come from different religions or families of origin that stuff that, then you're going to have a little bit of work to do to reconnect down into what does it look like for you to stay connected to the information of sensation and emotion and stay in the present moment with what's happening. This will guide you into your truth and give you a lot of information about what is your true path instead of living somebody else's life. So that's my journey, but it's also how I support people, largely how I support people in my body, mind, spirit sessions in office. So if you're interested in that, please touch in. What I was actually going to share today was connected to the 4 principles that I put on my MEK coaching website. And those 4 principles are: I am in service to life / love. I am devoted to your sovereignty. I am supporting who you are in the world, not just who you are being, but who you are. I am in service to orgasmic living. So those are the 4 principles that I chose to put on that website. And I would like to walk through those, maybe not all in this video, but maybe one at a time in different videos, depending on how much comes out here. I am in service to life. Now, in the past, growing up religious and very spiritually connected, that word that I used was I am connected to God. Or later on, it became I am connected to spirit. And now I really love using the words I am connected to life, I am connected to love, I am connected to mystery. That's another word I really love to use. And for me, the difference is important because words will conjure different emotions or elicit different experiences from the past in memory. And so one of the things you'll recognize if you work with me long enough, or if you listen to enough of my videos, is that I'm constantly interchanging words. And I do that very specifically for a very specific reason. And it is so that your brain doesn't think it knows exactly what I'm talking about, because I'm talking about something bigger than what you grew up experiencing. I'm probably talking about something different. And even if it's similar, there's different nuances. And what I'm asking of your brain and your listening capabilities is to break out of a box of definition or box of experiences that you come with when you hear the word God or spirit. And so I'm going to be using lots of different words for what I would now consider just life force energy or creator or creatrix. When I was growing up, I grew up in a very conservative religious situation where it was proposed that the doctrine we were under was there was a Trinity, and it was supposed to be God, Spirit, and Jesus. But what was actually taught as the Trinity in the upbringing that I was in was God, Jesus, and the scriptures. And that ended up being more of what we actually lived out. Now, later on, as I moved my way through different sects of the religion that I was in, I became more acquainted with what spirit was supposed to be in the Trinity, God, Jesus, and spirit. And I would say that relationship to spirit within my religion is actually what led me out of my religion that I grew up in. So, that's a whole story all in itself. Someday I might tell it. But my connection to spirit, life force energy, mystery, the life force that's flowing in and through and around us constantly, that spirit that enlivens, the spirit that is bringing the tree forward and bringing the cat into animation is and everything that's making the world move, right? The spirit of all things, the spirit of life, that is what I am devoted to. I'm devoted to the spirit. I'm devoted to mystery. I'm devoted to life force. I like the fact that at this point in my journey, that feels more neutral than gendered. It also feels more neutral than personified. So for me, that feels like liberation because people colored my definitions of God, and I didn't even have a definition of goddess or divine feminine growing up. And it's so easy to make God in our own image, make goddess in our own image. And that was actually part of we weren't supposed to do that, but it's what ends up happening when we personify God, when we gender God or goddess. So I often will mostly meet this life force, this spirit of all things bringing life constantly into creation, this movement that's happening, this mystery. The connection that I have, source is also another word, that universe. I'm reading several books right now on artistry and being an artist and allowing source or creative energy to flow through you as the creative vessel that's being offered to the muses. So all of those those things, this is kind of a jumbly presentation, but that's for a reason too, because spirit is mystery. Life force is mystery. Whether you call it God, goddess, it's mystery. It's not definable. And yet, there is this central channel that I'm connected to inside of myself that allows spirit to flow in and through me. And that is my anchoring, is this connection to spirit inside of this body. It's also what I would call the incarnation. And incarnation simply means spirit moving into flesh and coming into life. So many of us do not allow spirit to actually incarnate and move through us. We're actually shutting down the flow of life force and protecting ourselves with lots of different patterns. The more rigid we are in body, the more rigid we are in thinking, the more rigid we are in our belief systems. It's actually squashing this beautiful organic flow of life that wants to be moving through us. Now, I will say, and I have tons and tons of grace for the fact that most of humanity, lots of humanity, I won't even say most, would rather stay in more rigid confines because it does feel safer to us. And to actually be in this interconnected flow of life, this courting of life flowing through us as humans more freely, it's unknowable. And it is, even if we're in these structures, but it feels safer over here. So for those of you who are also devoted to mystery, to life force, to God, to goddess, um, you'll really understand what I'm saying here. So part of, and as I wrap this up, part of what I'm doing in my own life and with my clients, my coaching and my bodywork clients, is to help body, mind, and spirit soften so that life force can flow a little bit more freely. And as you soften and as you meet different ways that you've held yourself tightly, you actually start to feel more alive. As you allow life force to flow through you, you will also feel more scared. So there's this giant paradox of surrendering. So here's another word that I play with a lot, especially in my coaching, is can I soften and surrender into life force and how life force is leading me in each moment? And that's actually a really terrifying but thrilling and very alive way to live. So those are concepts that I'm playing with all the time. Those are I feel intimately connected to mystery, but I also feel like I'm in my own journey of the paradox and being terrified of how I feel life force moving me. And then I swing back into being rigid and controlling and trying to control situations so I can feel safe. And then I swing back into this space that life keeps courting me into of flow and rhythm. And as I say that, I will also honor the fact that I am not saying get rid of structure. Structure is part of life force. If you look at everything, it's built on sacred geometries, it's built on structure that energy can flow through. Your body is structure that energy can flow through. What I mean is, can I soften the extra protections that I've built that keep me from flowing naturally with life force in this structure of my body, of my being? And so that's what I mean. I'm not saying throw out all structure. I'm just saying there's an interplay, a beautiful interplay. And the more we soften our adopted protective mechanisms, whether that's tightening, whether that's different muscle tension patterns, whether that's different ways of thinking, the more we soften those and allow ourselves to feel. And another way that I play with this is life is supporting you constantly. Life is supporting me constantly. My physical body needs tangible evidence of that in order to soften. So one of the other ways that I really work with people is using nature itself as the tangible evidence of a life force supporting you constantly. Whether you have money in the bank in the way that you want it or not, you're still being supported by breath, even when you fall asleep until your very last breath. You're being supported by the earth until she blows us up or gets rid of us for being bad stewards. You are still being supported by the sunlight. It comes up every single morning, no matter what is happening, even if you can't see it because of the clouds, the sun is energizing the planet, allowing life to live on the planet. You are also being supported by the water. So the water and the mystery of water, the intelligence of water, the intelligence of fire, the intelligence of earth, the intelligence of breath, and all of that is spirit, wisdom supporting your physical body. So your body is made up of the elements. You are a beautiful created being supported by the elements, the creator, the creatrix that's constantly the mystery that's constantly moving. So we are part of this tapestry. We are part of something bigger. It's really important to our bodies that we feel like we are really supported by this something bigger, not just like floundering out here. Um, so I am in service to life. I'm in service to love. I'm in service to mystery. And that is how I define it at this point. If you were to, you're probably not still listening to this video if you were offended at any point in this talk so far. But if you are, um, part of my gifting is to hold people in whatever place they are within their own religious system, spiritual beliefs, experience with mystery or God or goddess. I tailor where you're at. I tailor what we're working with to what your structures are, while gently inviting you to soften if some of those structures might be um, hindering this flow of life that wants to come through you or that is inviting you to expand. And that is not my job to decide um, how that looks, or even if you go there, it's you. It's your relationship with spirit, with life force, with being alive inside of your own body. Which brings me to the second principle, which maybe I'll just jump into that, and this will just be a long video. The second principle is I am devoted to your sovereignty. Never in any moment of your experience have I lived inside your body. So I will never, ever, ever, ever be able to say what is best for you in your life. Now, I'm a very gifted practitioner. I'm a gifted guide. I hold a lot of neutral space in loving awareness that allows me to see things that your protective mechanisms may not be willing to look at this moment. So sometimes it will feel like I know you better than you know yourself, but that's never, never, never actually the case. No one can know you better than you know you. I might be able to see deeper in a moment than you're letting yourself see. But that doesn't mean I know more about what is best for you or what your path has been. I have not lived your journey. So, my devotion to your sovereignty is maybe my biggest principle of working with people, hands down. I grew up in a religion where I was taught that having authority over me was the most important thing, that being sovereign of self was the most dangerous thing, actually. And so if you grew up in that situation, um, you're going to relate to some of what I'm saying here. And it might even bump up against, because it's in our culture, even though our culture doesn't say it's spiritual or religious, it was founded on these principles. And the idea that we need accountability, that we can't know ourselves, that our heart is wicked, that left to our own devices, we'll do horrible, terrible things, that you need a go between God and yourself. And that's where priests came in, right? But taking religion that I came from at its word, Jesus said, there is no need for the go between anymore because you have the Spirit of God living inside of you. And if you actually move with that truth into a deep, liberated space, that means that you are sovereign of self, that your intimate connection to how spirit and life force is moving in and through you and your life is a very personal thing and cannot be dictated by someone else. So, even though I will support you, people feel incredibly supported from the work that we do together. They feel incredibly seen, they feel validated, they feel heard and honored, and even lots of things resolve in our work together, whether that's body pain or emotional problem or a relational tension. Many of my clients find resolution. But it is never because I map out what they have to do and then they follow it to a T and now they're better. It's because I create this space where I honor your sovereign journey, your sovereign self, the wisdom that is already inside of you to know what your next best steps are. And what if you take a next not best step? Oh, well, then we're in the adventure of figuring out how to feel through that, live through that, be with that, and work with that and alchemize the patterns that may have led you into that scenario. It's never a bad or wrong situation. It's just another moment, another adventure to move through, even if it's a lot of grief that you maybe chose. It's okay. And so that's how I manage and look at and hold that space. I am devoted to your sovereignty. So if you're on my bodywork table, you will, if you've ever been in here, you may remember that I always say, you are the expert in the room. I have not lived 1 second inside of your body, and we are working with your body, your mind, your spirit. So you are the expert, whether you feel like it or not. Another thread in this is the way that we have not done a good job in our culture of individuating. So growing up, maturing. We, many of us, never walked ourselves or were walked in past cultures. They would have initiations where you become a sovereign of self. And yes, you're interconnected with the community. I'm not saying that. You're living in loving community, in conscious community. Um, you're not all islands. This is this is not what I'm saying, that we're all islands. I'm saying that when someone grows up and feels individuated, feels like you have your sense of self here, that you have the ability to know what is good and right and true for you and for your next steps, and the ability to take that, you come out of victim mentality. You come out of needing a rescuer. You also come out of being the perpetrator more often. You come out of feeling like you're waiting for somebody else to dictate or tell you what's right, what's good, how to live, how to be, have permission to do certain things. Now, this is definitely where I came from. One of the turning points in my life was, oh gosh, I don't know what year this was, maybe 2013. And I was visiting my brother in Montana, and we were sitting around a campfire. I was married at the time. I had four littler kids, and we're sitting there chatting and dreaming and talking about who we want to become someday, the gifts we want to bring into the world. And he just dead eye looked at me and said, Emmy, when are you going to do the things your spirit is here to do, that you came here to do? And out of my mouth, without thinking, came the words, when my husband gives me permission. And I heard myself, and I know some people still think that would be a fantastic response. But when I heard myself, I was appalled. I knew that I was waiting for something that might never happen. And it woke me up to the fact that I needed to be true to what I am here to bring into the world, to do, to offer, even if the person that I was married to at the time would not be able to handle that. So that was like a very huge moment. I lived under that for my whole life. First, I was under my parents, and then I was under my God for a very short time before I got married, and then I was under my husband, and then we were under a church, and I have story after story of being told we couldn't do certain things in our own home because we weren't given permission by the church to do that, and then I couldn't do things personally because I wasn't given permission by my husband to do that. It was just like this crazy, crazy control. And so my journey out of crazy control to be sovereign is part of why I am so committed to allowing you to be sovereign. Um, One other story here on this sovereignty piece is I remember when I was studying my way out of my religion because I wanted to be really sure that I wasn't just making an emotional, irrational decision, that I knew why I was choosing to move myself out of this space. And so I did tons and tons of study and met tons of inner demons and fears and all kinds of things. And that's a story for another time too. Um, but this one moment, I was looking at a verse in scripture and I wanted to get more clarity on it. I felt like I had a sense of what the Spirit was actually speaking to me about this verse, but I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust what I was experiencing inside of the living words of those verses. And so I went to the commentaries that I had on my shelf, which I had several. And I remember pulling down several commentaries on this scripture and reading all these different men and their experience of the text in their study, and all of them conflicted. There were threads of similarity, but all of them had different interpretations. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? Actually, I probably didn't think that at the time. I wasn't letting myself swear. Um, but it was like a light bulb went off inside of me, and I realized, oh my word, I could pull commentary after commentary and different religion after different religion and different historical scenarios after different historical scenarios. How am I ever going to know what is the right one way? Nobody can interpret that actually. Now, I know that's scary territory for some people, and some people love it. Some people grew up with that freedom. I did not. So this was shocking awareness that happened for me. How are you supposed to know which diet to take? Have you looked at how many diets you can, or eating plans or healthy ways of living or exercise routines, or which one is the best thing? How the fuck are we actually supposed to make decisions? Honestly, most people just check out their brain, follow a guru, follow a teacher, follow a specific, and don't, and feel fine with that. And okay, great. If you want to do that, no problem. And actually, I mean that, no problem. I did not want to do that anymore. I wanted to live an authentic experience as myself in the world. And I knew that I could, based on the teaching of Jesus, actually, that there is a spirit that lives inside of me, a life force, a mystery that I can collaborate with, that I am an incarnated being, the spirit of the living God, Goddess, incarnating in my flesh. And so what ended up happening was that was another catalyst moment of me learning how to trust and listen to life force leading this body into my next movement, this body. Now in my wild women circles, we teach you, Erin, Lindsay, and I teach you how to drop all the way down into the womb space and the pussy to listen to what is true from that deepest embodied womb center, the pelvic bowl, because that's even more the root in the womb. If you can start feeling what is true for you from that, what is your embodied yes, what is your embodied no, from that space, it's even more powerful than just knowing what your heart wants, what's a true yes or no from here. It's like a sumo wrestler. Um, when you learn to drop into that deeper, lower space inside of your body and know what is a yes and what is a no for you from there, you are far more confident, you are far more less easily controlled. This is why um, women who know their orgasm, who understand their sexuality, who live really connected to their embodied sense of yes and no from their womb and their pussy, are uncontrollable. And it's part of why the patriarchy came in and got scared and shut women's sexuality down. They wanted to control a society. So that's, if you want to be an uncontrolled human, who I'm not talking about not living well in community. I'm talking about knowing you, being individuated, having your sovereignty, feeling like you are a sovereign of self, and having a really solid sense of an embodied yes, an embodied no to move through your life, not living somebody else's authority for your life. You're not living your life if you have the guru and if you have the husband who's telling you what to do, and or if you are the husband who has a wife telling you what to do, or if you are following rules and are very, very strict. That's one way of living, but I wouldn't say it's the best way to experience being alive. So, again, I'm going to honor that this way of being that I teach, that I hold, that I practice is far more scary. You have to get far better at being with mystery and the unknown and not being in control, surrender to life as it's happening, and also surrender to life, but also very connected to what is true for me right now in this moment. What is my yes? What is my no? What is my next step here? And it just takes a lot more engagement in the process of being alive. And you can't shut your brain off as much, and you have to stay connected to your body more. Um, but you will feel far more alive. You will feel passion. You will feel sad. You will feel deep grief. You will feel because you're connected to life and all its cycles, life, death, and rebirth. And we cannot skip those when we are actually living in collaboration with spirit, with life force, with mystery, with God, Goddess, and allowing life force to move in and around and through us as us. So that was a lot. I don't even know if I'll post this video. If you're watching it and you watched it to the end, there was a lot of rambling, but also some good stories, and mostly just like the feeling of who I am underneath what I do. So if you have questions, if you have comments, please respectfully add them. If they're not respectful or I don't want to answer, I won't. So just so you know that. I don't engage argument, but I will engage good conversation. So thank you for being here. May you find your own personal connection, if you haven't already, to spirit, to life force, to life, to God, to goddess, to mystery. And may you know that center of self, the sovereign self, and that knows how to follow life and feel and experience the fullness of life as it's moving in, around, and through you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And I hope that you enjoy these next hours as you meditate on being alive and being the sovereign of self. I will be back. I hope you will be too.